So this is private training with Karuhat Supuwan. He is my absolute favorite fighter. And I've been training with him for a little while already. And he's cornered for me in fights a few times. So he had cornered for me maybe like a month or two prior to this training session. And what's kind of amazing is that not only is he a legend cornering for me, but he actually thinks about what he sees in my fights and is helping me to make adjustments to improve as a fighter. So when I came to see him here, he was kind of like making fun of me from my last fight a little bit, and definitely patterns he's seen in the past few fights that he's cornered for me. But he ends up making this kind of radical change for me, which is switching my stance to Southpaw. He does it very slowly, so he's going to be watching me for the next like 10 minutes, kind of working it out in his head as he goes. But what I love about the fact that he figures it out on the spot is that he's a thinking trainer. He comes up with it on the spot, and we just go with it. So here he's making fun of me because I overturn on my left side when I grab in the clinch.
Yeah, because he doesn't want you overturning. Look at him. He's Southpaw.
So in order to correct this thing that I keep doing in my fights, because my opponents are so much taller than me, I keep overturning on my left, so he's like, don't grab left, grab right instead.
He wants you to go the other side.
So there he's making fun of me for that overturn. He's saying control the right arm, your opponent's right arm with your left hand, but grab with your right arm.
He's saying with his left, use your other arm to grab your right arm. Yeah.
So the times in training and in fights that I have remembered to control that right arm, it makes a huge difference, because so many people when they're clinching use that arm for control. They use it for their strength. So if you can control their right arm, they basically don't know what to do. It really, really interrupts what people are used to doing with whatever degree of clinch that they generally have. So something that he's worked with me on before is this kind of sliding forward and backwards. He has this incredible elasticity in the way that he fights. He's very relaxed and can move in any direction. So in my shadow boxing here, I'm basically working on all the things that he's worked with me on before, which is kind of flowing forward and backward.
Yeah.
But then also trying to integrate what he's talking to me about right now, which is standing orthodox but grabbing with my right hand.
Yeah, but he's
so my nemesis is this girl named Loma. She's an incredible fighter, and she's really good at throwing in the clinch.
As a fighter,
she grabs with the right arm the way that he's telling me to. So here again, I'm trying to get this like rocking that he's worked with me on before in previous sessions. And here I'm still grabbing with my left in shadow, but then using my right elbow to kind of have an immediate response so that I don't overturn. When I walk back like that, that's not how Karuhat walks back. He hasn't fully worked with me on just the walk back yet, so this is the version of how I understand it given how we've worked thus far. But in the months after this, he works with me specifically on that walk back because he is a switching fighter. He switches stance a lot. And when he comes up with the idea to have me go Southpaw here, he doesn't have me switching. He has me just stay Southpaw from the start to finish. And what's very interesting about that as a training technique, but he's not doing it to teach me a lesson. He really actually wants me to change to Southpaw. What's interesting about it is that I have so much experience and I already have a level of skill in orthodox that when I switch, I have all of that skill still, but I become like a beginner in my non-normal stance. So you end up collapsing these different learning levels. One of having all of this skill and experience, and the other of then going to your uncomfortable side and having to really focus and concentrate on an uncomfortable body position. And it was pretty amazing how quickly I became more comfortable in that other stance. But again, here, he hasn't told me to fully switch yet. So he's still just watching and seeing patterns and figuring out how he wants to solve the things that I'm doing that are really irritating him right now as he's watching me. his style, he's one of the most incredible female style fighters ever. Here he's showing me he wants a longer knee. But his tactic, which I discovered maybe 2 or 3 sessions prior to this one, is he creates tension in his opponents. So if he can create tension in his opponent, then he can read them. It's like the way I described it was throwing a blanket over a ghost, and then all of a sudden you can see it and track it. He's incredibly fluid and loose all the time. So here, he's showing me how to grab with the right arm and then square up immediately in the clinch. So he has me coming in orthodox, grabbing with my right and immediately squaring up. See how he's controlling my right arm with his left arm? That's what he wants me to do, and then you have control with your right arm behind the head. He's saying change to the right arm instead of grabbing with the left. And I've done some work on my own prior to him ever telling me about this, to grab with my right arm to enter Southpaw, which I was doing in order to protect myself from elbows on the way in. But you can see in the way that I'm moving that even though I've worked on it, I'm not super comfortable with it. Here he's like, fully switch, don't grab from orthodox. Switch stance by stepping forward with your right and then grabbing in the clinch with your right hand. So I become Southpaw and grab Southpaw rather than simply grabbing with my right arm. But here he's starting to show me how changing my stance entirely works. See how he's using the right leg to block as he's coming in? You basically use it as your front guard, like your front line defense. It's the shield as you're coming in, and then your backside is the sword that follows once you've made your way in to be close enough to your opponent. He's telling me this side is good. And here he starts to explain to me that because I'm naturally orthodox, my right arm is my dominant strong arm. So if you put your strong side forward, you have a lot more control as you're coming in. It's like you put your power at the front. And then even though my left side is not my dominant side, because I'm physically standing with it at the back, it has more power than if it were at the front, just because of body positioning. So here, see how he's switched to Southpaw? And he's showing how to use your front side to cover that distance and come in. He's not using power shots, but he's using his strong side to be the guard at the front.
Why?
He's saying, now he's gone Southpaw,
Why, no
and he's
problem.
saying even if you overturn with your right hand, because you're right side dominant, you have the strength to correct that position. Whereas on your left side, you're not strong enough to change that position.
But it's still dangerous, no?
So you don't try to overturn, but because that's your dominant side, it's much easier for you to make that correction. So here, I'm starting to go with my right side forward more instead of just switching to the right in order to grab for the clinch, and already my movements are much better than they were when I was going the other way. He hasn't told me to fully switch yet, so I'm kind of going back and forth at the moment. But I'm way more comfortable with my right side forward, just realizing the purpose of it. So there, I'm practicing that correction in case I overturn on my right side. And Karuhat, in his clinching, likes to push the head rather than yank behind the way that so many... So his preference is to do this push across your body rather than yanking around to the outside, which is what most people learn in the West. And he just pulls his body to the side, and then he can knee you from like a side position. It's an incredibly dominant position to land in for him. See how he moves his arm? It's almost like arm wrestling. You kind of keep your elbow at a vector point and like move to the side. But look at how much control he has in it. And it's from the swing of his hip. He's not using arm strength. He's using the strength of the pivot of his leg And then see how he has to use so much more strength to do that pull? He's showing the disparity between those two moves, that if you pull, you're using a lot more energy, but if you push, you're basically like knocking someone in a direction that they might already be leaning in. When I'm watching the way that I shadow box here, because I've been working with him on this for a couple of months now, and the second part of this video is 3 months later, I can see the kind of percussive way that I'm trying to understand all of his moves. Karuhat is not percussive. He's incredibly fluid. Everything flows from one move to the next. And so it's kind of taking out those small hiccups and interruptions that really get his fluidity and like balance and weight shift to understand his style more clearly. But there I'm figuring out how to come in with my right side, and he sees me trying to work on it, so he comes in to show me the elbows on the way in. See how his elbow dips to the inside of my forearm? He just angles it slightly inside. It's like a swing almost. He's like, this is your front side and your strong side. Look at all of the things that you can do as you're coming in. And then he just tips his elbow to the inside of my forearm to get inside my block. And he's saying just block with your front side as you're coming in.
Because Southpaw put his strong side in front.
He's so comfortable in illustrating why this is a very simple, very easy adjustment to make.
What do you say?
He's saying I come forward with my left, which isn't powerful, so why? Like it's just kind of...
It's literally exactly the same thing that I do from my orthodox stance, but putting a strong side forward.
That makes him... This is very not...
So this is about covering distance and having that strong side forward so that I can defend on my way in. So this happens to me a lot in fights. See how we call it the wall of China, but he's saying if you turn sideways, you don't have strength. So instead, try to stay really square, and then you can pull people. See how he's using the left side, and he's like, you can't pull on people with your weak side. So square up. The referee will come and break it, or you can turn them if they turn themselves sideways. It's really interesting to be learning this from him, because then to go and look at his fights and see how he was a switching fighter, the way he uses his dominant side or his strong side in a counter strategy against his opponents is really incredible and smart. So here he's telling me I'm you so that he can show me what he wants from me. He wants me to go back to orthodox so that he can show me what he's doing. So this is a southpaw fighter against an orthodox fighter. He's what I'm supposed to be. But look at these small movements. See how close he's staying? And then just using his strong side to come in and interrupt me. But if I'm orthodox and he's southpaw, see how he's got this open side where I am? Like, he has the same open side he can be attacking. So see how he switches in order to get out of the way? And now he goes back into his normal dominant stance, and he can fire a power shot very easily. So he's putting that leg forward to kind of bait me, but he can also block with it. See how he just makes these tiny adjustments to stay out of the way, but he's close enough to constantly be interrupting me. It was really less uncomfortable than I thought it was going to be to go southpaw. You can see that I'm constantly like, I'm a little bit more off balance, and I have to keep reminding myself to get into that southpaw stance. But my left kick comes out incredibly easily, like way better than my right kick when I'm standing orthodox. And see how he makes that switch? When he's getting out of the way, he'll switch his stance. See, when he's catching on that side, Berklerk does something similar. So now he's ready to slam his power into my open side. That became my open side by the way I was kicking. I'm doing what I've been taught to do, which is just catch it normally and step to the side. But then I'm not ready to kick him. So by switching your stance, you're suddenly in a position to just nail his open side. And there's something strategically really brilliant about this whole thing, which is that if you can become really proficient at being southpaw when you're normally orthodox and attack people this way, then when you switch your stance, it's like that Princess Bride thing when you're like, I know something you don't know, I'm not left-handed, is that you've defaulted into something that you're very powerful in already. So you're proficient in both sides, and anywhere you land, you're really strong. So he just wants like a jab and teep to close the distance and keep interrupting him to set up for whatever my backside attack is going to be to his open side. He hasn't broken down for me yet that I'm aiming for the open side, and it's something that Westerners don't learn, so I actually never really thought about it before. You just kick and punch where you kind of see an opening, but the open side is something that Thais are incredibly aware of, and Karuhat in particular is like a master at. So when I first started doing this, because the idea to switch me had come off of my problem with grabbing in the clinch, he wants me to work my way in and try to grab for the clinch as what I'm working for. But he wants me to be catching those kicks and firing into his open side. He's making fun of the way that I was blocking. I was kind of like turtling and crunching too much. But see how he just wants me blocking with my front side, like you can cross block if that right leg is coming, or you can just block on your normal side if his left leg is coming. But there's a lot of trial and error in figuring this out, and you're gonna get hit, and you just have to keep coming forward and stay close. He's telling me not to back out. See how he's blocking? He's like, why are you going back? Use the block to keep eating that space. Otherwise, you're just covering the same ground over and over again. So I'm bringing that block up as a fake even to keep covering that ground. That's what he wants out of that. Even though he's one of the most famous and recognized femur-style fighters with his technique, he kind of has the heart of a Muay Thai fighter, of a knee fighter. He's always covering ground and coming forward. And I found out in the session that's at the second part of this video that he started out as a knee fighter. Like before he entered Lumpini, when he was growing up, he was a knee fighter, and then he became a technical femur fighter. Probably one of the most famous ever. So here he's not telling me, but he wants me to be kind of cutting off the ring and moving him around. And I'm kind of tracking him for the most part, like just following him. But I'm using the jab and the teep in the way that he's been asking me to. Way better than I do on my orthodox side, which is kind of incredible. This is what I was saying before about how interesting it is to take someone who already has a degree of skill and experience and then switch them to their uncomfortable side and kind of create a beginner out of them again. Is that when you switch your side, whatever mental hang-ups you have about certain techniques in your orthodox side aren't there. It's like you kind of have this clean slate to start from. So when I'm standing orthodox and I'm too far away to jab, I'm like, I'm too far away to jab. Whereas when I go southpaw, because that's not how I normally stand, I automatically get close enough to jab. It's strange. It's just like that side of my brain doesn't have those hang-ups yet. So I get to record fresh. I'm having a really hard time gripping with my right arm as he's having me switch to grabbing southpaw. What's interesting about that is that it means that when I go orthodox, my whole game plan is to grip with my arm. And because I can't do that in southpaw, I kind of don't move. But here, you can see that he doesn't use a lot of grip. He just uses his forearm on the neck to manipulate you and move you around. So that's what I should be doing instead of trying to get a good grip. So in my southpaw stance, maybe because I'm uncomfortable and my body mapping is different, I'm able to stay a lot closer and fire back in counters that are actually reaching him, which doesn't happen in my orthodox stance when I play with him. But he's a really brilliant teacher in that he just adjusts the level to what you're doing well and takes it up a little bit higher so that you're still challenged, but he never introduces things that are way too complex. He waits to see what you can get and what you can't. And then you play with it for a really long time. So here he's just giving me all kinds of challenges to work with in this southpaw strategy. And you'll see me do this like gallop as I remember to get back into my southpaw stance. But that left kick was way easier to do than any of my right kicks in life ever have been. That's his Superman punch that I just threw at him. And if you watch him, he mostly stays orthodox because of what he's trying to teach me, but he'll go southpaw, and you'll see his strategy of how you switch stance. So if you have someone who bounces their front leg, he's showing you what to do when someone is blocking. You just go over and hit them with that hook because they're on one leg. He's like, they're standing there on one leg. Take advantage of that. A lot of people see the leg go up and they think about the leg only, and they're like, how do I come in? I can't kick because that block is there. But there's always an opening somewhere else. This is something he's absolutely brilliant at, which is these off balances and trips. See how he goes underneath my thigh and then just kind of like crab walks sideways to like splay me out and I have no balance? So in the session that's like 3 months after this, he works with me way more on what he was just saying there when he was like popping his leg up and trying to get me to see open side and options you might have when it appears like you have no options. I keep grabbing under his leg, which is just the dumbest. It's a habit that I do from my orthodox stance. It's one of the only things that he'll stop and shake his head and be like, don't do that. If I make a mistake, usually you can keep flowing with it, but that one he hates a lot. So I'm getting kind of still, and I got nailed on the front leg because I was too still. And so he's showing me if you don't block it, just swing into your other stance to get out of the way. And then see how I'm already set up to throw my right kick into his open side by that switch stance. When you see him do it, he loses absolutely zero ground. Like his front foot does not move at all, but he's totally out of the way. So see how he's kind of faking me a little bit and he wants me to just respond to him without losing ground. Like he does not want me backing up. There he just said, if you stop and I stop, that's when you throw something. So see how he stopped and his leg came up? That's when he wants like a teep or a kick or something. That's the you stop, I stop. He explains it much better in the next part of this video because it's 3 months later. But he talks about how you move your opponent around, and then when they post, that's when you force them to make a certain move, whether they're blocking or trying to fire something at you, and then you can throw something. It makes you more sure of what you're gonna be tagging them with. So see how he stopped, and so I stopped, and then I could keep him. He hates that so much. That sound he's making is like total despair in the fact that I keep doing that. So see how he's popping his leg up there? He's not saying anything, but he's showing me, like he's trying to get me to recognize that leg coming up as creating an opening. So when that leg comes up, he wants me to throw that hook or keep him, punch him in the stomach. See how I went to the wrong side? I basically kicked his block. Like, why are you doing that? Because I don't see it yet. So by playing with me like this, he's trying to get me to see and recognize that when the leg is like this, these are the openings kind of automatically. And sometimes he'll give me the answer like that. So here he's showing me how to do that switch back. It's switching stance, not switching in the way that people say like a switch kick. There he's using that push that he likes. I keep grabbing it. I cannot help it. So here he just broke down for me something that he does in the next session, and you'll see that since it's 3 months and I've been working on things, I'm much more able to digest it. But if I kick twice and he blocks twice, and you know what he's going to do because he's just done it twice, then you throw to what is open based on what his response is. See how he's keeping his leg up? He's trying to get me to figure out, and there I teeped. So I don't know if I actually recognized it or not, but through his process of how he teaches, I saw what that opening was.
You do good.
I cross block a lot actually from my orthodox stance with my left leg. It's very automatic for me. But when I switched, trying to do it with my right leg, because I never cross block with my right leg, was not like just changing. So here he's showing how you bring the leg up to fake the teep in order to then get your opponent to respond a certain way so that you can take advantage of that. So if you've teeped twice and then you bring your knee up to make it look like you're going to teep again, your opponent's going to try to sweep the teep and their hand has come down, and so you throw the jab. That's what he just showed in that shadow. Alright, so now he's putting me as orthodox. So what he's showing is what he wants me to be working on. So see how he starts from Southpaw and then he does this little gallop in order to throw his right hand. So in switching stance, it becomes a right cross. But look at how he covers, or how I cover ground with it. You want to like float into your opponent with it. You don't want to stay in one spot. You have to cover ground with it. And there I hit him with it, and then he's like, why are you not kicking me afterwards? In the next session, he does something very similar, and I didn't understand yet, and he didn't even tell me in this part because I wasn't ready, but part of the strategy is if you punch and affect someone, whether that's missing and they've backed up or whether you actually tag them and they stop, you have the next move to hit them with. Like you've basically stunned them or moved them into a position already. That's what I'm talking about the way he flows with everything. Look at how he like stands up more when he switches his stance. When he comes off of moves and he like lands, he's always ready to throw the next thing. If you go back and watch his fights, the elasticity in the way that he just walks forward on his opponents is so incredible. He's doing it in like micro movements here.
Catch, he said.
So he wants this drill where you like kick and catch, kick and catch. This is an amazing thing to work on with a friend in the gym. You always want to be the last one to get a kick in this drill, and you can go for a long time. But it teaches you mentally to be okay with your kick being caught. Here, what he's showing me is when he's trying to step to the side, I control where he's moving by kicking him on that side. He's against the ropes, so his movement opportunities are very limited. So I can corral him pretty easily because he only has like 2 moves. But I keep letting him escape on that side. His fakes are intended to get me to block, to like stop, so that he can then fire. So he's doing that fake, and I'm not blocking because I know that he's faking. And so he throws his kick a microsecond slower than what I think it's going to be, and he hits me with it every single time. He teaches me about that in the next session, but there he was just demonstrating it, basically. So here again, I'm trying so hard to get my lock on that right side because I'm a puller. If I weren't a puller, if I pushed the way that he does, you don't lock at all. You just use your forearm behind his neck. See how I keep slipping off of him because I can't get that grip? I should go the opposite way and push his head. He's telling me that when I'm pulling, I actually pull my own body away, and so I lose any of the leverage that I might have already had. You need to stay really close and just like pull the person already with your body. Sang Tien Noi taught me that you pull the head into your own shoulder before making the turn. And that's the same thing that Karuhat is saying in terms of like staying close when you make your movements. So here, as I get more tired and as more things are being brought into this game, I'm slowing down and becoming more still. So he's basically trying to get me to get back to the way I was 15 minutes ago, which is jab, teep, and like keep him off his post. There he's showing me when to use that switch that he taught me at the beginning of this segment. Look at the way he fakes. That's what he wants me to do. And I'm a little bit lucky in that I tend to mirror people. So I kind of pick it up, but I'm not understanding fully what his fakes are intended to do, which is to create a response in your opponent that you can then anticipate and take advantage of. So here he's pulling out the pads because he's going to have me work on elbows. So it's the exact same thing we've been doing, which is the jab and teep, but he wants elbows. So you have to stay really close. So he wants this upward elbow. If you want to see the most beautiful execution of this, watch his fight against Lam Namoon. He nails Lam Namoon with this in the clinch and slices him in like the first minute of a round. And so I'm just using my front side to block. And then see how he's pushing against my hands? He wants me to push back and then release that pressure and collapse into him. This is totally that thing that if you're like, you have two people who are pushing on each other and then one person releases the pressure, the person who keeps pushing is going to fall forward. It's that, but with an elbow on the end of it. Westerners don't really fight like this. We don't like put our hands against each other and push on each other. But this is a huge part of Thai fighting, especially in the Golden Age. Look at how his elbow bends to the inside of my forearm. And see how his hip turns. His torso is what generates all that power. And see with the twist, if he throws the knee at the same time, he's just going to hit my back and get elbowed in the face at the same time. So the twist is not only to generate power on the elbow, but it's also a defense. And he was showing if he throws his opposite knee, he's still getting hit in the face. So even though it's going to come to my side, it's not going to have a lot of power on it. So he wants that push first, and then the collapse with the elbow. He just went over on that one instead of swinging up under. He shows me this very beautifully in a session that we called Be Like Sand, which was how you kind of push and then melt away. It's almost like he disappears when he releases. Look at how gentle his push is. It's just enough pressure to get me to push back, and then there's this double impact when he releases the pressure. So I'm throwing the elbows with the right like pressure and release, but I don't turn my torso at all the way that he does. So here again is to like pull together the same technique that I was using before, which is this jab and teep to keep him off of his post and keep myself very close to him, but to add in these elbows because now we're at this distance. So there, I was hitting his open side with that switch and then right cross that he taught me. So he was telling me to knee there because he was already open, but I was more comfortable turning him first. I think because I'm a clinch fighter, coming into this distance and changing my stance at that distance is incredibly uncomfortable because I have patterns born in already. So recording not over those patterns, but like adjustments to and more alternatives to those patterns opens up an entire side of space in clinching. So this is just jab teep. And my arms are flailing all over the place, like my elbows were popping out. So I'm doing what he's asking me to do, but if you watch me, I'm not actually covering any distance with it, which is not the point of that drill. So the point is to keep him backing up to kind of cut off the ring with these two moves and keep him from posting so he can't really fire back at me. He's only on defense. He wants me to create more distance with my teep. He wants it longer. I was doing this short teep that didn't cover any distance. So I keep landing in my other stance, and then I have to like remember to switch back. But in the 3 months between these two sessions, I've worked on this so much. And so the things that we could work on in the next session are things that he was introducing in this one, but I wasn't ready for, so I didn't see them. So this one is kind of the like foreshadow of what we're doing in the next session, which was 3 months later, and he explains a lot more in terms of strategy for each of these things that he's working on here. So see how his body is facing that direction? See where his belly button is? Wherever someone's belly button is their open side. So that's why he's telling me to kick left there, is because he's stuck on the ropes and that side is open. Here he's trying to show me how to do his crazy crab walk trip. He's like pinning my leg with his block and then just like slingshotting me. So here he wants me to catch the kick with the switch. Look at how smooth he is when he switches. And you're immediately ready to fire. But he wants me to lift the leg a little bit. If you watch when he switches his stance, watch his chest, he stands up a little bit more. Like, he kind of like parabolas up. And here, because he's on the ropes, he wants me to be cutting off his movements to kind of corral him. So here what I'm doing with these elbows is these kind of like leaping steps forward to cover that distance. That's not what he does. Everything is an incremental step forward instead of having to cover a lot of distance all at once. He likes that because I timed my teep on his counter. And here, see how he's crab walking over to his right? I did the right thing by kicking left to corral that a bit. But I'm still kind of tracking him around. He wants me really to be cutting off the ring. The way that he fights and what he's trying to get me to do here is limiting the number of things that he can do as my opponent as a counter, so that it's a minor interruption when he throws something at me. Here he's showing me how to jump up on the legs. See how he just lifts his weight enough that I can't trip him, but then he's putting his weight on my thighs, so it kind of buckles you in half a little bit. In his earlier fights, you'll see when people catch his kicks, he gets put on the ground all the time. It was a weakness for him for kind of a long time. And then he started jumping up on people the way that he did to me just there. And he's not a big dude, and he fought people much bigger than him a lot. So when he jumps up, he jumps high. That's kind of incredible. But you can see how I'm using just small moves all the time to move him around the ring. Not everything is a power shot. Everything is setting up for your moment when you can really throw something bigger. So see how that was just a small teep? That's just to get me to a position where he can throw something better. You don't have to like launch this amazing teep every time you throw a teep. You just move people until they get to the ropes, and that's when you bring out your power shot. Here again, he's showing me how people anticipate the teep, and so they try to sweep it, and that's when you punch them in the face. So here he's having me work on elbows much lighter without the pads. But his elbows have this angle on them. They all come downward a little bit, like over the guard. This is the opposite of Yod-Kun Pan's elbows, which always come across. Yod-Kun Pan is like, I'll hit your guard and bash through it. Karuhat likes to come over it because he's very fluid in what he does. Master K taught me these elbows as well. His always had an angle on them. See how he's showing that thud? He doesn't want that thud. Those thuds don't cut. It's those, like, lancing ones that slice you. But he does something similar to Yod-Kun Pan, which is he'll gently put his hand on yours and then gently move your hand out of the way so that he can slice you. I'm too stiff, and we're laughing about it. See how he, like, brings his chest up and his hip comes forward? Watch his torso. The whole thing just kind of, like, swings forward with that elbow. I'm starting it too low and ending too short. See how he starts it kind of at the level it's already at in his guard, and then it swings up high. That's the same thing that Sagat complained about with me, is that I start, if you have an arc from point A to point B, make point A as close to point B as possible so you can go through point B rather than starting from really far away. It's like winding up a punch.
What are you doing?
He's telling me to watch his torso. Watch how it works. Oh, it's so pretty. It's coming from his hip. And see how his foot turns? Kevin has to go take care of JD real quick. He was barking at a guy.
Not often, but once in a while, if a drunk person steps on him. It's okay, right?
This is the fun of traveling with a dog in Thailand.
I wouldn't kick the bag.
So I'm coming forward, but you can see I'm leaving my hip back. Like, I don't bring my torso and hip forward the way that he does. So the whole angle of my body is kind of broken rather than all one piece, which is what he does. And it's similar to what he had me working on with the pads, how you, like, push against someone and then collapse that. He's just coming over the guard. See his shoulder and his hip? The angle of that. See how his hip comes up? He comes up off his heel on that front side. It's so pretty and light. That one's very much like Yod-Kun Pan's, except it comes up and over rather than straight over. He's telling me my shoulder is too tight, and I'm doing this like super round movement rather than kind of arcing over. If you watch my front leg, I kind of peg leg it. Like, my front leg stays really straight, and I kind of like keep it on the inside of his stance. He doesn't do that. His has flex in it. See how he puts the percussion right at the end of it? Everything's really smooth, and then there's like this extra little jerk right at the end of it. That's the slicing part. And so here I'm trying to add in that front leg as the fake and the way to cover distance to get in. So if I were not elbowing, I could do that same thing in order to grab for the clinch. But I'm trying to get his, Kevin and I call it coming out of the water. Like, he does this dolphin movement where he like kind of brings his head forward and swings up and out. I'm trying to do that a little bit, and because I don't bring my hip, it's not even close. He's showing how
what are
I
you doing?
start from too low and end too short again. See how that comes really low? And then the one that he
butt.
demonstrates goes up through the target. He sees it as coming from his shoulder. He keeps touching his shoulder to show me how he wants it higher. It's because I'm starting from too low that he's showing me that, but my hip isn't coming, so I don't get any reach up.
He doesn't turn sideways.
The power is coming from bend in the knees, like flexibility in the legs, and the hip coming forward. Which is why I can't get it. It's because I'm not doing either of those things. I don't think I've ever thrown this many elbows from a southpaw stance ever prior to this. So I worked on this a few times with him in other sessions between these two sessions, but the second part of this video is 3 months after the initial introduction of this southpaw strategy. So here I'm coming back from a couple of fights up in Chiang Mai, and I've been working on this southpaw strategy in my gym, with my trainer, in my shadow, all of these things. And so this is the progression off of what he showed me in that first session. So I'm much more comfortable catching kicks and changing stance and going back and forth, but without constant adjustment, because I only see him maybe like once a month. I see here that I'm doing more of the kind of in-out micro adjustments, which he does not like. He wants you to stay close, and you switch your stance to launch a counterattack or to get out of the way of something, but he doesn't want you losing ground. And I keep taking these micro steps back, which I need to get rid of. But here, he's bouncing that leg up the way he was in the first session, trying to show me or teach me how to find openings when someone is on the defense like that. And he wants me to be hitting the standing leg with a kick. So I'm not quite close enough for the jab and teep. I need to be staying closer and moving him off of his spot. So I'm kind of doing these just out of range, which is not moving him to a position that I need to be moving him to. But when that leg comes up, I need to see the openings, which the leg kick is one. He'll show me to punch or teep the body. And it depends on which side is open based on the person's stance. So, because of the way he's standing with that left leg up, across to the body, because I'm standing southpaw, is open. And he basically is showing me that with that leg coming up, I can't kick. It's kind of stymieing me because I'm only looking for the kick. So you throw what's open from that position. So he was faking me out, and he got me to stop, and I kind of didn't know what to do. And so in this session, because I've gotten better in the things that we've been working on, he works more on strategy. And he said in the first session, but he really works with me on this one more kind of later. When I stop, you stop, and then you force someone to create the opening by what their counter is. You put them on the defense, or you force them to go first and counter. So I'm kind of drifting to my right now. In the session prior to this one, he told me to kind of stay left, even though I'm southpaw, because I actually want to bait his right kick and then punish him for it. But I can't remember that at the moment, and I keep going the wrong way. But as he puts the leg up, he just wants me, he'll just leave it there until I can see the opening. So I was saying to Kevin that I'm not kicking as much anymore. In the first session, I realized how easy it was for my left kick to come out when I went southpaw. It just kind of flowed out of the position I was in. And I've gotten away from that a little bit because I'm working on all these other things and because I'm drifting to the right. I need to go left. See how I got stuck on his leg? Then you choose a different opening. That's why I did the punch there instead. I wasn't thinking about it, but the way he teaches, you do start to kind of intuit the openings. So that's why he wants me to drift left, is to bait that right kick so that I can do that switch and then hit his open side. He just hooked my leg when my leg came up. He's starting to introduce more pressure in our sparring. So here that's something he worked with me on in the last one, which is to catch that kick and then throw a body punch, off balance him, and then follow with a kick. I'm kind of doing this in-out thing, which makes it so that I can't force his moves as much as I could if I were staying closer. When you watch Karuhat's fights, he moves so much that it seems like he's always like faking and moving around. But I kicked his leg a little bit in a good spot, and I could anticipate that he was going to get me back for that, so I got a little bit anxious. These fighters will always get you back on stuff like that. So here, he's putting more pressure on me, and I'm going backwards, whereas he wants me to be kind of forcing him off his spot. That's one of my favorite moves that he does. It's so incredible. He sweeps a teep and then just like rolls you over his leg. We'll work on it later, and he breaks it down because I didn't fully understand how important the leg on the leg is. But as a fighter, it looks like he's always moving, like he's always faking and doing these things, but it's always in the context of forcing a move or a position out of his opponent. He does not do excessive movement, and he criticizes me several times in this session about moving meaninglessly. So there he was showing me when I catch his kick, or if he's going to cross block, if I punch his body first, he can't bring that kick up in anticipation of my next move. So I catch his kick, and then he knows I can only throw my right leg, so he's going to block it. But if he punches body first, he won't. And because I nailed him right on the nerve on that one leg kick that he was going to get me back on, he's starting to kind of do this little protection thing of that leg, which is really good if you can get your opponent to have to concentrate on defending something that hurts.
Turn.
So he's just making an adjustment on the shin pad. I was actually super conscious of him kicking my legs. My legs were really sore from fights. But if you can switch stance to protect one side and do it non-obviously, like the way that he's protecting his right leg now, by the way he's switching stance or keeping his leg up or kicking me, that's how you do that. That's how you protect an injury in a fight. You can see the way he fakes, how he like does this little jerk and then actually fires a second later when my leg comes down. He'll work with me on that in this session. And now I'm switching stance a little bit more rather than staying in southpaw all the time. But I try to stay in southpaw like 80-90% of the time. He's making it harder for me to move him around. He just incrementally increases the pressure and difficulty. Forces you to grow in this like tiny way. So good. He's staying in a lot more. And there's me failing at his turn. He's telling me I did it too slowly, but that's only half of the problem. I wasn't putting my thigh against his thigh, which is really how you trip someone. I was focusing too much on the arm, which kind of doesn't matter, it's secondary. So you catch the teep and then you step with your leg that's already forward deep into them, and your thigh interrupts their thigh. Most times when people try to do like a sweep, they switch their stance to like kick out the leg. So a lot of people, when you first try doing that move, are going to automatically switch your stance. Don't do that. You just step forward with your front leg. I'm going after that leg I heard him on. And he knows. He puts himself in the ropes and he wants me to take advantage of the fact that his options are incredibly limited when his back is on the ropes. But I don't manipulate people when their backs are on the ropes. Thai fighters are great at fighting off of the ropes. So he's trying to get me to do it, but I just don't have the vocabulary yet. So I kind of just back off and wait for him to come out. So this is also something he works with me on, which is just getting barely out of the way of the teep, and then people will kind of off balance splay themselves. He'll have me catch it later and emphasize that fault, but here is just getting out of the way. If you watch him, he's tracking my open side. So the side that he's choosing to kick with, whether he's switching his stance or whether he's just nailing me as I come in, is tracking where my open side is. Open side means whichever way the belly button is facing. And he's so good at it. So he likes me going after his legs there. He's smiling at me. So I should be teeping and jabbing the way that he showed me as a way to keep him off of his post and keep covering distance. And I'm kind of staying slightly too far away all the time, which is making it harder for myself. And I end up stopping with no options. That was the wrong side. I was getting ready to kick him on his closed side, and so I stopped. See how there I have to switch so that I can get his open side? So there he puts his glove in my face and wants me to just take a step back and then kick him, rather than like taking a million steps back or like stumbling. It's all about only taking as much distance backwards as you need in order to fire back. He wants me to teep, but a punch in the belly would work as well with that open part. So in the first session, he was just showing me how to move myself all the time to slightly get out of the way or to like keep covering distance with him. Now he's starting to do it too. So me having to track his open side while he's switching stance is way harder than him staying orthodox the whole time, which he did in the first session. It's one thing to be tracking his open side so that I can always kick him on it, but it's another to also be aware of which side is my open side, because then I know where he's going to kick. It's one of those things like when you're always searching for an opening in your opponent, but you don't know where your opening is. See how he's taking a slight step when he catches my kick to kind of gently pull me off balance before throwing that punch? That's what he's trying to get me to do. And I'm putting my butt back, so I'm actually not able to do it properly. Don't pull with your butt. Step with your leg back. See how he's doing that? He's like gliding backwards. Be like Karuhat always. Look at that. And then he can just launch himself into me. So he wants you to kind of flow with, it's when you catch kicks or kind of pull on things, it's like rolling with punches, but you're holding their limb as you do it. You never yank on anything or like jerk on anything. Everything is very fluid with him. You're just continuing something in the same trajectory it was already going, but by pulling it slightly beyond where it should have gone, you off balance someone significantly with like very little power.
It's no good.
So I'm kind of like pushing myself off to the side of him in this session more than what he was working with me on in the first one. I was very straightforward in the first one, and I'm kind of drifting more in this one from side to side, which at times works, but is not conscious enough to be a strategy. See how I switched my stance and he nailed me on that side immediately? He didn't like the way that I was kind of like jerking into the position that I got myself into. In Thai you say dokdai, it means like to shock. He wants me to anticipate everything so that the movement is really smooth. This is really cool. When we work more on that front bouncing leg, which so many people do. But when that front leg is bouncing, it's defensive, and so you can mess with it a little bit. Here he's telling me which side to teep on, and he's explaining the open side. If I teep on this side to his closed hip and his front side, it's very easy for him to catch it.
Open side, yeah.
If I do my opposite leg to his open side, so my left leg right here, I can be longer, and it's much harder for him to catch it. See how he's even just floating his jab in space like that? That's what I should be doing to cover distance. But I'm kind of staying back more in this session. I had a really hard time with this, and he'll show it to me several times throughout this session, but you throw the punch, and the punch either misses or whatever the thing is, but the kick comes off of it. It's like something that has a hinge on it. So the punch sets up the kick, but the kick is just an extension because someone moved backwards or whatever. This is what I was saying in the first session about how with him everything flows into the next thing. So here, I can't do that sweep that he taught me from that side. So he wants me to just lift it to off balance him and then follow him for the attack. The sweep that he shows me is when he teeps from that front side. So here he's showing that if I kick and he blocks and I kick again, I know he's going to block again. So you change up with the teep because he's on one leg. So the 3 months between the first session and this one, he's introducing a lot more elements that I have to deal with at any given time. So the first time, I was just jabbing and teeping to move him off his spot, which is really what I should be doing in this session as well, but with so many other pressures and elements involved. It's keeping to the same simple strategy, even when there are more things involved. This is again that punch to the kick, which I'm confusing with another technique he does, which is a punch to the body and then a kick to the head. But he's saying that you don't even have to extend the punch fully. You just start to throw the punch, and the movement of your shoulder is the fake, and then you throw the kick on top of it. And again, I keep putting him in the ropes and then not doing anything. But he's worked with me more deliberately on how to move backwards just incrementally and still under control. So I really like that when he puts his glove in my face and has me move, he just puts it in every now and then so that it's real pressure. Like I have to choose to do that under real anticipation. See how he moves his hip
so
just
pretty.
slightly out of the way to catch that teep? It's like in baseball, someone with a mitt just cradling the ball. He just barely moves out of the way. And his hip does go back, but because his back leg is already back, he's not moving back with his butt. I'm moving back with my butt because my back leg doesn't bend back.
Into it more. Your
But
left
here, we're trying to figure out
Only
that
the
my
thigh.
thigh against his thigh is really what does the trip.
See, he can
See
throw
how he
you
just
without
tangles
his, arm,
his
you know?
thigh underneath mine? That's what
beautiful.
causes the sweep. The arm is like secondary.
No, he put his thigh up.
I'm getting my
And
leg
turn.
on top of him, but I'm not bending it into him to force the bend into his leg. So here, I'm getting really still, but I'm not forcing a move out of him when I do that. It's the same thing he said, when you stop, I stop, and then you force the move. I'm just waiting. Don't wait, force the move. See how his punch doesn't necessarily come all the way out? I'm leaving my hand in his face, which is not the point. The point is to use the punch as the fake. See how his punch is coming like out of his ribs? It's just the movement of his shoulder and torso that makes me think it's a punch, not him throwing the punch. Nam Kabuin has something similar to this, where he fakes a kick and then throws the punch.
It's the same in Nam Kabuin's neat punch and neat, but gentler.
In Nam
Remember
Kabuin's thing,
He faked
the
kick
movement
with
is of
the
your
punch.
hip. You don't throw the kick at all, but because your hip moves, people
Same
think
thing.
it's going to go, and then you throw the punch. It's very much like the switch step
They work
cross
together.
that Karuhat has me do earlier. I'm getting way more percussive again, like I'm really stiff as I'm trying to do these things, which makes me very easy to read. If you watch how he changes angles and moves around, here he wants my teep to be longer. He's explaining how that short range teep that I
one?
do, where you pull it back,
Pull it back.
isn't what he wants.
Which
He
one
wants
do you
it
want?
to just kind of extend out. Not like that.
No.
He's going to show me the long one. So the reason you do it long is so that you can flow with the person moving back and keep your balance and kind of take up space. But it's also, if it's interrupted, you're just moving with whatever their interruption is. But it's not a super jerky, powerful teep, but it has power because of the length of it. So there,
What's he
he'll
saying?
explain this to me later. The way I was like stepping forward with that kick, it was easy for him to move out of the way. If I had made him post first, that would have landed. But here he's still trying to get me to understand that I'm not throwing that punch and then throwing the kick. He's saying it's the same as a Superman, like the arm doesn't have to come out. So here I'm not drifting right as much, but because I just came over to his one side, I couldn't get that kick off. There are all of these elements that are involved in play like this that you feel out because of what works and what doesn't, but you may not be aware of what made it work or what isn't making it work. Here I tried to do his
You have to look
amazing
away.
Superman, and he's going to show me how it's really done. Not like that. Like this incredible one. So when someone's leg bounces up, or if they're blocking a lot, if you kick them and they check their kick, on the next one you hook their leg and just kind of off balance them a bit. Watch him do it. He's saying don't kick out the bottom, but see how he hooks and just kind of, he puts tension in his leg and just pulls a little bit.
Kick across. Yeah.
So if we're going to do this kind of a few times throughout this session, but if you watch him do it, when he's hooking with his right leg, he drifts to the left. I do the opposite. I kind of go to the outside of the leg, which takes away a lot of the leverage. I do it to balance myself, but you actually balance better if you go with the direction that you're trying to hook it in.
You get it on the way down.
And here he's explaining that when someone blocks and their leg is up, they have power. It's as the leg is relaxing and coming down that you really want to do that hook, because that's when you off balance someone.
Yeah, you come forward. Yeah.
He's like, when it's up, they're powerful. As they're coming down, very weak. It's really hard to time.
Oh, that's so good.
When you first start. And he's even letting me do it, so you have to do it a lot to get a feel for where that spot is. But look at how he pulls his body over to the left in the same direction of the hook. Here I'm remembering to go left, which is what he had told me to do a few sessions ago. And it makes things much easier for myself. He's saying it's okay that I'm not super off balancing him. You just want to off balance someone a little bit. You don't have to get them to go to the ground. It's not a failure if they don't fall.
He waits a beat. Yeah.
But
he waits a beat. He almost
mentally,
hops.
as the person who's being hooked off of that block, because your leg is on its way down, you kind of can't tell why that's working so well, and it freaks you out. You're like, I should be good. My leg was coming down. So it's psychologically an awesome tactic to use several times. So I'm starting to stay closer better than I was earlier in the session. There's that slight move back off of the teeth. Just throw what you can. See how his switch step forced me into a position and then he waited a beat before being able to hit my open side. It's the same thing of waiting for the leg to come down before doing that hook. You can wait for the block to be finished before kicking someone and it's going to land. He's tracking my open side, and I'm just trying to get one single move rather than responding to where his body actually is. That's what he's trying to correct when he keeps his leg up and he wants me to find the opening. He's telling me not to move meaninglessly. Don't fake out of nowhere. Fake in order to get the response that you want. So if you bounce your leg, you're trying to get them to bring their front leg up rather than bouncing your leg hoping that they'll move somewhere. It's exactly what I was just saying, where I see the move that I want and I wait for it rather than seeing the opening that comes out of the body position that's right in front of me. Respond to what's there rather than just trying to get that one kick. By trying to get that one kick, he can block it over and over and over again. But if I know that that block is coming, choose the thing that's open when that block is up. So here I was trying to get his teeth by putting my hip forward. And he read that and did it, but I didn't get my leg against his leg. He's going to break it down here. See how he just bends and then he pulls me. He drops me into that spot that he wants me in. And I do not do that. It's so hard. When you get it, it's so easy. But getting to that one little sweet spot takes a lot of practice. So there was a little bit better, but I'm still not like pushing into his thigh the way I need to really
That step.
trip
yeah,
him.
Yeah.
But if you see him take that step in shadow, you'll see how important that front thigh is for the entire move.
back,
See
yeah.
how he steps so deep?
Ah, high up on the butt. Yeah.
So Kevin is seeing that my thigh needs to be much higher up on his leg, like kind of up by his butt, but I'm still not pushing into the thigh. He's saying the arm doesn't matter. Like, I'm thinking too much about sweeping him with my arm. See how my knee was bent, like, away from him? It needs to be bent towards him. Like, you kind of get a horse stance a little bit. Look at how pretty his, like, flow back and forth. He's showing how when you catch the kick, if you're really tense, you don't have the next move. You want to kind of roll with it, like flow with
You
it.
feel the rhythm like the ocean.
He's showing the like jerkiness that I'm using.
Like rubber band.
You turn things into two separate moves by being tense. Like you catch something and like are tense and jerk for a second and then you do something else.
Liquid.
I was saying everyone pops and locks, but Karuhat is liquid. Everything flows together because of his relaxation. So here he's getting me to kick in response to his movements. So there I take the step back so that he's stepping. When he steps, see how his side becomes open? And he's saying that you can teep as well sometimes. Either kick or teep. But I step back either way, which is not correct. Like, you don't have to step back when that side is already open. So here's when someone's like kind of near the corner. And I catch his kick and see how if I just keep going in the same direction I was going, it's going to kind of launch him into the ropes. So I'm doing exactly what he just told me not to do, which is I'm tensing up and like gripping his leg and trying to like pull him into the ropes. Watch how zero energy he uses and just kind of like
Keep him going.
continues my trajectory where I'm already going and just kind of like pushes it along. It's like an object in space or something. You don't have to like shove it. You just kind of guide it. Encourage it to go towards the ropes. There, see how I pulled on him? I don't need to do that. So here he's trying to get me to creep backwards so that I realize I'm in the right position for when he throws that kick, then I can do this into the ropes. I didn't quite get that at the time, so it took a second. But now, see how I creep backwards? Now I'm close enough to the ropes that when he throws that kick, I can do that.
What are you doing?
Propulsion.
What do you do instead?
Here I'm realizing that you don't have to pull. He's going to show me again. See how he just swings over to the side?
Sorry, it's not even tight.
It's the same. It's the same as the
He
teep.
calls it a swing.
You just pull it along with you. You pivot. Yeah. Better?
There. So I just grab it, I like cradle it in my arm, and then by moving significantly over to the side, it's going to swing him.
Wait for you.
Then once he hits the ropes, he's going to bounce off, and that's when you throw your counter. Bounce. There. He's like, yes.
That's no good.
So much of his fighting and his strategy is knowing what the number of moves are in any given moment. It's so much like chess, where when you look at the board, you can see what the options are and then choose what you're going to do based on those options, and thinking what your opponent is going to do based on their options and all of these things. So He's not setting up like 3 moves in advance, but he's forcing a move from his opponent. So here, I'm not backing out as much as I was at the beginning of the session, which he's happy about. But here, he's showing me when that leg is bouncing, when the foot goes down, that's when I kick him. A lot of people do this bouncing front leg, and when it's bouncing, they're on defense. So you know what their options are because of where their weight is. It's on that back foot. It's really hard for me to do this timing, to like see the weight transfer. So he's showing that when someone kind of tenses up, that's when he likes to throw something, because when you're tense, you're not going to move. I don't switch step on my left kick when I'm standing like this very often. Pinu does not have me switch step, so I'm kind of having to make an adjustment in this moment for that switch step. But he's saying when someone is in this position, they're only defending, so you know they're not going to be able to throw their back leg from here. So you hit that open side as that foot's coming down, you just time it. When he's kicking me, he's doing that, but because he's doing it with actual beautiful timing, you can't see it. Like, he'll kick me as my weight is starting to shift forward. And unless you know that that's what he's doing, you would have no idea. But on the receiving end of it, it feels like they're reading your mind, or like you can't move forward because they're hitting you every time you're trying to get ready for something. So see how he's already in that stance so he can use his back leg? He stays really still, waits for my body position, and then throws that kick rather than like moving his feet around so much meaninglessly. There he just switched stance, so I respond to his movement and then hit that open side. It's on the change of stance.
Change.
So as I step forward, he hits my open side.
Yeah.
Every time he's told me to switch stance, everything he's taught me about switching stance has been as someone is already launching something at you. So this is stepping forward and changing stance, and it makes you vulnerable when you're on the offense. He does it as a defense, and then it becomes an offense immediately. So he wants me to watch where his weight is going. When he switches his stance, that's when I throw that side. And if he doesn't switch stance, I switch kick and hit his open side. Not a lot of people switch stance, but people do walk forward. So you just watch where their weight is. See how he wants me to kick while he's still changing stance, like while his foot is still up? And then I end up landing right as his foot's coming down, exactly the same as what he was showing me on the bouncing foot. So he's bouncing that foot more subtly now, so I have to really pay attention to his weight shifts. He keeps telling me over and over again that when that foot is bouncing, he keeps saying, I only protect. He's saying, I'm on defense, so you know what the options are. That's another reason he teaches me that jab, teep, is someone's on defense all the time. Like, you put them into 2 modes. They're either in defense or offense. And you know what their options are in each of those categories. I keep hitting his closed side. It's so interesting to me, but as Westerners, for the most part, we just throw what we can throw in the position we're in. Whereas the awareness of what is the open side and where someone is
Learn
going to
a different
be
way.
is just this incredibly important and blind spot for a lot of Western fighting. Like me kicking his
something
closed
while
side
you're
or
looking.
his arm all the time is
Like
like,
jab or something.
it's literally like shooting Captain America's
Yeah, but
shield all
jab
the
is not
time.
for no reason.
Like, try to shoot Captain America, not his shield. So I'm getting slightly closer each time I do that, but I'm frustrated because I can feel how much effort I have to put into it, which it should not require effort. He's saying to make my thigh higher. I'm shorter than Karuhat, so
Oh, towards
I'm
you?
trying to like lift my thigh, but you have to step.
Towards you. Yeah.
Look at his leg. See how he bends it underneath my thigh?
Like horse
That's the
stance.
part I wasn't getting. My knee is pointing in the wrong direction.
He has a horse stance.
See how my knee is pointing away from him?
Knee foul to me.
So I'm asking him, is it a
you pull?
foul if my leg is facing away from yours? Because it kind of looks like a judo trip, and you can't have calf. You can't trip with your calf.
You figure
So
something?
there, I kind of bent my
Same thing in
knee
judo,
forward,
like this.
which isn't quite right.
He like bends into your knee.
He also does this trip on a knee. So if someone's kneeing you and you step past their knee and then he like bends his knee into the back of the opponent's leg, you're actually doing that again in this teep sweep. See how he bends into me? Like his
see,
knee
baby?
goes underneath my leg.
Yeah, the leg like this.
Bow your legs out.
Yeah.
And
But
then
you turn too. It's
The arm just
amazing.
kind of guides them down, but you're not
Amazing.
actually like pushing them with your arm. And then it's about timing. Like you can't slowly milady someone to the ground. You have to like actually trip them. So here he's showing that when you get checked on that kick, then the second one is to pull on that leg as it's coming down. So I'm getting the tension in my own leg a little bit better, but I'm still not leaning my weight in the right direction to really move him. See, okay, so he's walking forward with his right leg and then kicking. So instead of doing a switch step, he's basically just walking forward.
Whisper switch.
And he's saying
It's like
that if
Udam.
you don't do a quick switch step, if you just walk, people know what you're going to do.
why
You're
they're
basically like
beautiful.
telegraphing with the step forward. So that's why he does the really quick switch step. But he covers a lot of distance with it. He's telling me that my kicks are too wide. I like when he exaggerates what I'm doing because it's not a super exaggeration, but it looks so bad. So his kick comes up narrowly, so he's not like winding it up to come really far around. Like if you picture
Too
someone
wide.
hooking from like super far, that's what he's talking about with the kick. But you're not kicking up. Like you don't want to just like can your leg up. It's still turning over. If you look at his standing leg, you can see the turn on the kick. Yodkun Pan tells me that my kicks are too wide as well. I think that this Western emphasis on like turning over on your kick, we tend to overdo it. And it makes it slow and very visible. So if you watch his kicks, how they kind of like, they come up, but they turn in at a moment that it's just going to go right into your ribs. So again, still a little bit faster. You're kind of, when you cradle that teep and pull them and drop them into that spot, you're already off balancing them. So it becomes incredibly easy to just bend your knee under them and have them topple over, because they're already, with the timing of you having pulled them into that spot, they're already ready to tip over. Here again, he's having me work on that, watching the opening side and kicking as his weight comes forward. He's doing it over and over again on me. And you can barely see it because his timing is so good. See how he gets out of the way of my kicks when I'm doing it as this like kind of blind, just trying to kick him? If I were kicking him while watching his weight, I'd be reaching him. The way he can get out of the way is because I'm not doing it at the right moment. I'm close enough. Here's that punch kick thing that I was struggling with again. See how his little like faking switch steps is just creating enough tension in my body that he can read exactly where I am? He's watching my weight. When I'm trying to pull on his leg, I'm putting my butt back, which makes it really hard. He's explaining to me that the reason it's not working when I try to hook his leg is that he's so relaxed. The way that move works is that there's tension in your opponent. And so it's like if you have a string with a balloon on it, if there's tension on the string and you pull it, you're going to jerk the balloon. If it's a lax string, you pull on the string and the string moves. The balloon doesn't go anywhere. So by him being so relaxed, it's hard for me to off-balance him, which really is the secret of his style, is that he's taking advantage of tension, like even slight tension in his opponents all the time. So he's like, don't worry that you can't trip me, I'm just super relaxed all the time. See how he's putting his head forward? He's teaching me to time it with his weight transfer. See how late I am on reading that weight transfer? I was working on this after this session at my gym, and I just swung the bag. So you swing the bag, and as the bag starts to swing, that's when you time your kick. Definitely not the same as reading an opponent, but it is a way to start it, to like start your timing. It seems like so many things to focus on. I'm looking for open side. I'm trying to make him tense. I'm trying to read where his weight is. Like, all of these things are going on all the time simultaneously, and I'm trying to like do each one separately. For him, they're all one thing, and you can see it in his style, and he's trying to break it down for me so that I can see all the things that you're looking for. It's like being able to hear all the details of a song or language instead of just following the guitar chords or something. But it comes incrementally, and you can see how it's being broken down as we're working, and you just start to meld them all together. But that's how you become Karuhat, which is what I'm trying to do. The cockiness not included. That's something that you have to work on just by becoming all of these things.
And then a punch. Then a punch.
So see, he's yelling at me because his leg was coming up, and he's saying I can hook him See how he knew that leg was going to come up? He's having a switch. So keep blocking on that side. The two things that he's showing me is that blocking the exact same kick from two different stances have two different openings. So from one side, my jaw is open, and on the other side, my body's open. I don't understand what he's saying, so he's shaking his head like trying to explain it to me over again. See how he fakes that kick and brings himself over to my open side for that hook? I love when he like does this hand motion that's like, it's so obvious. Like, just do this incredible thing.
You have to. He makes you bring your leg up.
I could not understand how he was faking that kick. It's kind of like a soccer kick, the way that he's launching himself over to that side. He lifts up. He doesn't start to throw the kick. He just uses his hips to fake the kick. See that? How he's using his front leg to fake the kick rather than like starting the kick and Supermaning it or something. It's totally like a soccer kick. Sorry for all the Americans who don't know soccer, but that's like a soccer kick. See how he brings his body around? And his hip is what's creating the fake, but he launches himself into the open side so that when he swings that hook around, he has so much power generated.
Same.
He knocked Gansak down with this in a fight.
Better.
There, I finally figured it out. That kind of like launch across. So he's kind of bringing his leg up. Like he brings it off of the ground in the fake. Because it's almost like a leg kick even, the way that he hops over to the side. So now he's showing me how the other side, you don't do the same thing. On this side, that's not the opening anymore. Now his body is open. Watch me not get it. No. For him, this is like a car that has a door open and people can't figure out how to get in. He's like, get in where the door is open.
You understand? You attack the open side. Yeah, which side is open?
So here he's showing it to me, and I'm starting to understand it because of the way the body is facing. If you can't see which way the body's facing because it's like too fast for you to try to read, if you memorize which foot is forward and which stance they're in, then you know which side is open. It's like cheating on your multiplication table. So here again, we've gone back to tracking open side, but he wants me to pay attention to his weight at the same time. But mostly he's just trying to get me to understand which side to attack on based on his body position. He's showing me that when his leg is up, he cannot bring that other standing leg up to protect because his leg's already in the air. Look at how he comes around for it when he demonstrates for me. He comes around and like nails that leg so clean. When I try to kick that side, I half get blocked by his other leg. It still hurts him, but it kind of hurts me too. I need to kind of like whip around almost with that same kick that he was showing me on the jump across. And then he's saying it's the same on the other side if the leg is up. So
Get your mojo back, baby.
he's telling me to
Energy.
relax because now I'm so tense that he can see when I'm getting ready to kick him. Like we both stop and then I'm like, I'm gonna kick you with my body, and he knows which side I'm gonna go on. So you mask what you're doing with the relaxation. So this is yet another variation on the punch to kick. See how I missed because he moved backwards? My kick is longer than my punch, so even if I miss with the punch, I can reach him with that kick if I launch it in the same motion. I'm turning it into two motions. I'm bringing my punch back, like I'm missing, and then I'm throwing the kick. If you just flow them together, it's like something with a hinge on it, and you just like unfold it as it's going. He's like, no. That's not right.
You cannot go any farther.
So there, see how I keep my same position? Like, my weight is all forward from missing that punch, and then I use that same weight transfer to continue the kick. So he's getting me to track him a little bit more now. And I'm not paying attention to when he's stopping or where he is. I'm compartmentalizing too much all of the different things that you have to look for. But you just practice all of them and they start to become more familiar as you go.
Jump kick.
Here,
What do you do? Jump kick.
here you can watch my body expression of not understanding what's being said to me. He's put himself in the corner, and so he's like, just do a jump kick. And I do the worst jump kick ever. And he's like, not that. But see how I'm in the corner, and he knows
Why?
exactly where I can go because I have no
Does he have
options.
nowhere to go?
So I can cover all
You have
that
nowhere to
distance
go.
with a single jump kick because he has
'Cause you've cut
nowhere
off
to
the
go.
right side. You
It's
can't
like
go that
shooting
way
a
'cause
fish
you're
in a
right.
barrel.
He has a corner. You understand?
Because he's in the
He
corner.
cannot go out.
He can't go
Because
anywhere.
you're over here.
He's like, my
He
only
can't go
option
right
is to come
because
out.
you're right.
It's like when you've
understand?
cornered someone on a chessboard. You know where they're going to go because they only have one option.
In the corners. Yeah.
So here he's going to show me the difference between when you get someone on the middle of the ropes versus when you get someone in the corner. When he's on the middle of the ropes like this, he has somewhere to go. So if I try to launch an attack from that far away, he can just crab walk out because he's got options. But if he's in the corner, he's got nowhere to go. So when someone's in the middle of the ropes, that's when you throw like a kick or a punch or try to get him off the ropes. Or just track him and corral him into the corner. It's so interesting to see him working with me on this in this session because literally our first session ever when he was just sparring with me for the first time, he would put himself in the corner and yell at me for not kicking him. And this is maybe a year later that he's explaining to me how to do it. So here again, he's showing me when that leg is up, how you have very clear options. So if you break this down into the two things that he's just showed me and what he's working with me on right here, this is when your opponent has stopped, when they're still. You look at this open side and you throw, because they're on one leg, they're stopped. So they have static openings and you know which you can hit because it's a static opening. The other thing he was working with me on weight transfer is when your opponent is moving. As they're moving forward or as they're shifting their weight, you can still strike them. So it's two categories that totally go together because people can only be still or move. But when you get someone over to the ropes, they're not moving so much. So here he's on the defense because he's being corralled. which he's explained to me already, that when someone's on the defense, you know what their options are. Now, because he's in the middle of the ring, he has more options than when his back is to the ropes. So I should be watching his weight transfer, because he's definitely going to be coming forward since he's not on the defense. It's so brilliant. There's so much strategy involved in things that are like, where are you going to kick me? So there, because of that push and then me trying to throw the flying kick from that far away, I didn't put him in a position where he had no options yet, which is why he could block there, and he knew I was going to do it. But that's what he was talking about there with that hook. We're referencing the fight that he did that to Gansak in. So he's doing what he's been trying to teach me to do, which is watching whether I'm still or whether I'm going to be trying to move. He can read in an instant whether I'm on offense or defense. I'm starting to get more and more still because of the way that he's reading me, which actually makes it easier for him to read me. But you can see from the beginning of this session to now how much has been taught, how much has been practiced, and it's all just kind of under the surface of moving around. And then add to that 3 months earlier when he first introduced the Southpaw concept, which really just going Southpaw made me more getting access to my weight transfer and reading where my opponent is. It's huge growth and progress, working on a lot of things in 3 months. So here he's showing how to catch the kick and throw the hook, but it's similar to the way that he throws that hook when he fakes the kick, where he shifts his weight over to the side so that he has a lot of force as he's swinging back around for the hook. Here he's showing me that because you're stepping away from the kick to take power out of it, he's not catching it to show me how you just get out of the way. But as you're getting out of the way to take the pressure out of the kick, that's what's setting up your hook. It's the same movement, is doing two things. My problem is that I step too laterally, like I don't get close enough to him. You should actually step a little bit in a V, like I should be stepping towards his standing leg a little bit as I catch that kick. So because I'm orthodox, he was just telling me to go the opposite direction from where I was going. Whereas if I were Southpaw at that same moment, the direction I was going would have been good. That's his coulda got you with catching the teeth. But again, he wants it longer. He caught it because I was doing that kind of like snap back teeth.
Boy.
That was a good hook. He's proud of it too. That's again this thing where I'm clearly close enough to hit him with a kick, but I miss from like 5 inches away because he's able to move off his spot. That's why you set it up first with reading your opponent's body position, either forcing them into a position or watching their weight transfer. So here's that switch step again to hit that side. I was trying to hit it without moving from the spot I was currently on, like from a static position. I was getting a little bit like mentally fatigued because there's so much to be working on, and so I was aware of all of these different things that I needed to be doing, but I kind of couldn't do them all at once. Like I couldn't read which one I was supposed to be doing at that moment. And because I can kind of see it, but I can't fully make it out, I was getting a little bit frustrated. But you just pick one and keep working on it so that you can feel it out. Like everything is just learning to feel it. It's like being mostly able to read, but you can't tell the difference between P's and Q's for a while. So here I'm stepping back, which I don't need to do because he's stepping into the right position for me to throw that kick. Like he's doing the work for me, and I don't need to step back. He's saying that when he's coming off the ropes, he's not going to take a whole lot of steps. You know, he's really only going to take one step because of where you are. So you just throw that kick because he only has room for one step. If he decides to go the other way, it's still only one step, and I can kick him on the other side. He's showing me how to corral him because he can only move like one square at a time. He's saying that he was watching one of my opponents in a fight who liked to be on the ropes, and I wasn't reading her, like I wasn't corralling her on the ropes. He's trying to get me to cut him off and corral him into the corner better. Because he only has one square to move at a time, so I can read very quickly which counter I need based on where he's moving. It's either going to be his left leg or his right leg. And he's saying again, because they're only on defense, you know what their moves are.
Open side.
He's saying that I'm rushing too much instead of being patient to read what they are doing and then countering it. When someone's back is on the ropes and you're where I am, you become a counter fighter, which when you have someone on the ropes, you kind of go into this like kill mode where you're like, oh my god, I have to get in and like punish them for being on the ropes. And that kind of like forward, I'm still on offense when they only have defensive moves is rushing through your ability to read. So he's saying slow down and counter. And then here he's showing me how to pull that teep. See how he's being me? Like if someone's on the ropes, he's only moving a little bit to respond to what their moves are. If they're trying to be offensive, you only need to move like half an inch. Keep them against the ropes. I'm like going through this Rolodex of all the moves that I can do instead of reading that where he is in the ring means that I only need to do like 3 of them. So here, he's saying that when someone is against the ropes, you don't have to bring out all your weapons because then they're just going to be defending. If someone is against the ropes and they're going to be defending, they're waiting for you to bring out your weapons. So don't bring them out. Force them to move first.
Like get her to move. It's saying when they're on the ropes, they only have a couple of moves. So you can anticipate what they're going to do. But like girls don't come off the ropes.
So I was asking him, my opponents won't come off the ropes. So he's like, you fake and force them to do something so you can counter. Like you don't need them to come off the ropes necessarily. And now he's put himself in the corner. I keep hitting his close side. He's ordering a drink from a drink truck that just pulled up outside. Very tired. So here again, he's going back so that I can keep practicing these things that he's been working with me on. He's starting to bring his leg up, and he's like, do you remember what are the options when someone is bouncing their leg? So he's having me do the Superman at that distance because his leg is bouncing. So I'm getting his leg to come up in a block because he's showing me that that's what he wants to do. And then you throw the punch. He likes that one. That's that hook where you fake the kick. So there, see how he walked towards me and he wanted me to kick that side? I did like a little jerk before doing it. He wants it to be a very quick read, very quick response. So I have like all of these different things that we've been working on and all of these different options for each thing that he throws at me. You need to simplify and become really proficient at those things so that you have a very automatic response to things, but not so automatic that you're not thinking about it. Here he's criticizing me for kind of walking and hitting at the same time. That's what it looks like to him as I'm trying to like walk and kick at the same time. He's saying stop first. See how he wants me to wait, like when he stops, I stop, and then I can throw those kicks. But if I'm like walking forward and kicking at the same time, it's really easy for him to just get out of the way of it. And so when we get really still, that's when I can use faking to force him into a position or into a response. He's saying if you're just walking and striking at the same time, one, you're easy to read, but two, you don't have any like assurance, like there's no surety to what you're throwing.
Like or doesn't like?
No, you don't like
It's off balance.
Strike. You cover distance, make your strike, but you don't just like walk and try to hit.
This is the same thing that Chai said to me in boxing, that when you're punching and moving at the same time, you take the power out of your strikes. So here he's showing me that if you walk and strike at the same time, it's very easy for him to just swing out of the way. So he's saying stop first.
At the same time. Stop. And then kick based on that.
To open side.
So here he's going to show, see how I'm walking and striking at the same time and he just barely moved out of the way? But if I stop, he stops. Now it's a standing target. So see how he's stopped.
Same thing, yeah. Same thing.
Oh, when he demonstrates the fallacy of it, it's amazing. So you don't stop and stay perfectly still and do nothing. See how when you stop, that's when you start faking. See how he's still, and then he does that switch step to cover distance? But he's moving here for the fakes. So this is again what I was saying before about when you watch him fight, it looks like he's moving all the time, because he is, but he's not moving without meaning. Like, he has, if everyone has offense and everyone has defense, and you're either in one or the other, whoever can switch between the two really quickly, which he can, is at the advantage. So that's why he's saying stop first, and then I'm trying to get the stop and read that he was talking about. And now he's starting to do his like sway that he does with his head and his chest, which is part of his fake.
He come with his head.
He's able to like flick the lights on and off so fast in his offense and defense. And he can read his opponent really fast.
Yeah.
I'm doing his sway wrong, which he finds hilarious,
With your
because
head.
for him,
Yeah.
it's really
You see how he comes with
obvious
his
and
head?
easy. It's like if someone can't dance or something, I don't know. You can see me start to sway forward and then stop before doing the kick. That's not how you do it. You like flow into it. It's like a dolphin.
Look at his face, his head.
See how he leans forward, and at the like peak of his sway, that's when the kick comes.
You don't fake like this. You don't actually do it that way.
He does fake a little bit.
He like dives into it.
The kick come on when the head comes back.
But this is interesting, and I didn't understand it
No.
for a little while, is that as the head comes forward, as the weight comes forward, there's a
The head comes
slight
back.
delay for when the kick comes. So people respond to the head thinking that the kick is coming with it, and then the kick comes like a millisecond later
Yeah.
when their block or response
Or,
is
yes.
kind of already done. Look at his body position as he does that.
Yeah, but
And then
then
his
his
head
head comes
comes
up.
back as he straightens up at the peak of his movement.
Yeah, like that. It comes out of the water.
He's like, your head goes first,
Do you see that? How his head
and
comes?
then the kick comes. It's like at the peak of it. It's like when a bag swings. His smile in laughing at me at my inability to fake like this is very sweet, because I can tell how funny he finds it, but he's not mocking me. He's like just trying to correct it. He's being so nice. He's like, what are you doing?
What does he want?
Here he's trying to explain to me it's the same thing where he's like, don't walk and strike at the same time. You don't cover a lot of distance with this like head movement. You go, get to the point where you're stopping and he has nowhere to move, and then you use that sway forward as your fake. You don't use it as you're covering distance.
It comes after the head.
It's like,
Comes
no.
after the head.
Here he's explaining that to me. He's like, you go first, put them in the ropes, and then you slow down and do this
Come
part.
after the head. The head come, and then it come right after.
He's saying when you die is when they're already on the road.
He understands English pretty well. He can hear me and Kevin trying to figure this out together. He's like trying to clarify. So you close all this distance first, get him over there, and then when you slow down out of the stillness is when you do this like head sway. See how he does it here, like super subtly, to just show me how it's hiding what I'm doing.
You understand or no?
It's the same as the elbows we were working on in the last session. How your relaxation hides everything. I'm now doing it really tense, which is not how you do it.
It's very relaxed.
Look at him flow. Look at his. It's the same thing with the elbows. Look at his torso and his chest as he kind of. It's like he's coming out of water.
Relax.
And then his leg comes last, like a split second after the head has created the fake.
The hip doesn't come. The hip has to come with it. So you leave your stay behind. The kick
He's
stay
like,
behind.
he's like, if you just do it like this, people are sure you're gonna kick. You have to like bring the kick at the end of it. He's telling me to close the distance first. He's like, come. See how he does like jerky movements to fake? And then the fluid one is right at the end of everything when someone is already still. Look at his sway. Look at him do it. And like not do anything. I cannot do it. It's so pretty when he does it. So here, he has me practicing it, and he tells me when I'm right and when I'm not. And what I did not understand at all while I was doing it is that he is having me trigger based on his weight transfer. So I was reading the trigger and unaware that that's what I was doing. But he likes this because the relaxation is hiding the kick. Look at his flow. He's doing it as he like sways forward and that kick comes out. But I was too wide. It's so many super subtle things that make enormous differences. See, now he's bringing his weight onto his front foot, or he's popping his leg up. I'm not consciously reading that at all, but because we've just worked on it for the last like 20 minutes, I'm reading it because we've been working on it without being aware of it. If I can then become aware of it, awesome.
Open side. Open
That
side.
was not the open side.
Open side. That's
That
a
was
close
also
side.
not the open side. It's like if you're singing along to a song and the two words are going to rhyme at the end and you say the wrong word that's like a synonym to the one. You're like, no, rhyme it. Like, everyone knows what that's going to be based on the rhyme that it's supposed to go with. See, he's trying to show me the difference in actual weight transfer between if he's stepping forward, which is me reading his actual body movement, and then the head dive forward, which hides his weight transfer. So here he's not moving at all. He's just trying to get me to hide the kick with relaxation. I'm not swaying forward the way that he does. But because I'm not like stopping and jerking and showing that I'm going to throw that kick, it's slightly more hidden than it was before. And if I can get that sway into it, it forces a response in him, and then the kick comes a moment after. And now he's starting to do it with the weight transfer. He's starting to try to come towards me.
I'm a little bit slow. Like when he puts his weight here, but I don't see it.
So when we were working on the weight transfer, I'm like a beat slow. He brings his weight forward. I realize what I'm supposed to do and I kick him. Whereas the response time,
You're dragging, baby. You're dragging.
the response time as someone is starting to bring their weight forward and you're already kicking them, paralyzes people. It's so frustrating. I've been on the other end of it. It's like you just cannot get anything off. So I'm telling him that I think too much. Like I'm thinking what is the correct move rather than immediately identifying it and going. What's interesting about that is that my awareness of that is me thinking about it. Whereas before, when he was like, just do this head movement and was moving himself around the ring, I was reading him without thinking about it. So I'm totally capable of doing it with good timing. It's that I'm conscious of thinking about it. See how right now he's rocking with me and having me respond? See how I'm responding to his movement? As he shifts his weight forward, my leg is coming up.
Yeah.
And so his body's already forward, so he can throw the kick a moment later.
Right there. Like
You
it
just wait.
doesn't cost you anything to wait that extra
Yeah.
So that sway forward, I'm reading the sway forward. My leg is coming up for the block, and then he kicks a moment after I think I've solved it.
Yeah.
And
no
when he
attack.
was swaying towards me and I was responding, he's showing me how unconscious all of it is for me to be reading his weight transfer, but reading it wrong almost, defensively. There's a defensive read and an offensive read. And here I'm showing how much I can kick his open side or his closed side. That one was right. He's like, don't be tense and then throw it. Be really fluid and then throw it. But this delay is such a huge thing. Like the fluidity, the relaxation of him bringing his weight forward and then throwing the kick. It's the same as that thing he showed me where I miss with the punch and then I can unhinge the kick afterwards. You just flow into it because he thinks he's already solved it. If you punch and then come back and then kick, they respond to two separate things. See how I move back? I think I've solved it, but then the kick comes after, and because the kick is longer, he can still hit me with it. He could block because I did that like jerky movement. So he responded to my fake, but my fake had an end point. Like I was done with my fake rather than my fake flowing into what the strike should be based on his response to it. It's so high level. So I'm like, I get kicked on my way in if my weight is forward. And he's like, look at their body position. If they're bouncing their leg, you know he's going to kick because of his body position, whereas he was bouncing his leg before. This is defense. If he goes into that other position, he's on offense. Those are different options for me. So this is cool. Berklerk actually taught me the same move. But see how he switches stance and shoves me? He forces my kick and then switches his stance and shoves me backwards. So as you're faking that kick, you use the fake to step forward. It's very much like his sway forward anyway. He's like, you're sure they're going to bring that block up. And then you strike on top of it. And you do this when they're pretty close to the ropes, so you're pushing them into the ropes. So see how that becomes his open side as he falls backwards? And because I've switched stance, that's my power side now, to hit him on his open side. See the difference between his like fake to get the block up and then his fake to step into the other position? So now he's on one leg, so it's very easy to push him. So I don't have to use power. I don't have to like shove him. I basically just have to like encourage him to fall backwards with my hand. And then as I'm stepping forward with that push, that should be leading into the kick that follows. I'm still doing it as two separate things. He's saying you can also just punch. The punch is slightly different in that he wants me to do the punch first and then switch stance a little bit. So the punch is more of a stun, whereas the push clearly is a push. So punch, then switch. He wants me to kind of put a delay on it. punch, then switch. So he was saying to me that if they're against the ropes already, do the punch. If they have a little bit of distance, that's when you do the shove. If they're already against the ropes and you do the shove, they don't really have anywhere to go. So you could shove them into the ropes and kind of like launch them back at you, but not in the same kind of movement that all of this is. So there he was too close to the ropes already. And he's like, I'm already here. Don't shove me. If I'm here, that's when you shove me into the ropes. Because they're more off balance if they fall into the ropes than if they're bouncing on the ropes. You still have balance if you're just kind of trampolining on the ropes. It's very similar to Nam Kabuan when he shoves people against the ropes and then hits them on the rebound. You have to have a little distance from the ropes because as you hit them with that force, you kind of crack open. So here I'm reading his body position and when he steps forward with that leg versus when he's just walking forward. So here he's showing
so good
how to just gently bring that teep in the same direction it's already going to splay your opponent. See how he just gets out of the way? He's so on balance and ready to like launch that punch.
Yeah, but then
it's the same thing as the sweep where he drops you into this like
so you naturally fall.
Horrible position.
Down, yeah, down. Just you make them take a big step. Yeah.
So you don't need to catch that teep with any kind of firmness or power. You're just guiding it where it was already going, but slightly beyond the point where they're on balance.
Oh, so good.
Oh my God, so much in that session. So this is a fight between Karuhat and Gansak Sorplunjit, who is one of the probably top 10 fighters of all time. He was Fighter of the Year twice. Amazing fighter. Everyone loves him. And this is kind of a dream team matchup. These guys are really good friends now. I think they were actually friends already in the fight, given a few of the responses. But Karuhat's a little bit smaller. And this is to show how he uses his switch stance to hit the open side. He kind of will exchange taking a strike on one side in order to get to the open side of Gansak. So see the stillness that he has, and then he hides that burst into the open side with that left hook. And here he's going after the open side. Switches when he catches the kick there so that he can hit the open side on the opposite end. They both are incredibly explosive fighters, but Karuhat's stillness as he creeps into range is unique out of the two. These guys are like some of the baddest ass men on the planet. Seeing them fight each other is really exciting. Karuhat's elbows from inside the clinch are so nasty. He cuts so many people. There, that switch stance into the open side for that hook that drops Gansak. Look at how sweet Gansak is. Just smile at him. It's like time to go again. In Thailand, when they have these videos, they kind of blend rounds 1 and 2 together. So this is rounds 1 and 2 together as like a highlight. But again, you can see how Karuhat's coming in and switching stance and finding the open side or faking to one side in order to really leverage. That's that upward elbow inside the forearm. He just broke Gansak's nose with that upward elbow. And you can see he's gripping with his right hand. And now he's going to try to jab it. But he was southpaw for a good, 40 seconds just to get that open side and to kind of create responses from Gansak that he wanted. He won this fight.